Hello there, folks. I'm just Nice First Nami here, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of ranking of the teams from the AFG Pokemon Draft League. So basically, I've created a system where I rank every team out of 100, and I have 8 different categories. Some categories are worth more than others, and I'll just go through them now how I'm going to be ranking the teams. So the first important thing is like what the team is made of, like what types there are on it. Does it have like a team have a ghost type, which is important, just block rapid spin, have a poison type to absorb toxic spikes, ground type to stop electric attacks, and flying type to support earthquake immunity. Also, this category is based on like how many, like if there's any types that the team's really weak to. For example, if your team that has like 5 Pokemon weak to Fairy and only one resists, if a Pokemon like an Amber's gets in, it can just start clicking Moonblast on your team. So stuff like that will really detract points from this category. This category is also the most important as I rated 20 points of the 100. Second category that I care about a lot is hazards. Like how many hazards can your team set? Like stealth rocks, sticky webs, spikes, and toxic spikes. Also, this category really cares about the quality of the Pokemon. Like for example, a Garchomp will give you a lot more credit than having like let's say a Quillfish. Also, the amount of different options you have really matter because if you only have one hazard setter, your opponent it's really easy for them to prepare against that one hazard setter. So the more options, the higher the points you get in this category as well. Next, also worth quite a lot of points, is threats. This is the most subjective part of the review. Basically, how scary do I find your team? Like how many Pokemon that if they get in, they can start clicking buttons and killing things. So, like for example, uh, Corona, if it gets in, starts quiver dancing, like that's a huge threat, especially if it can Terra. In this case it can. Next categories are all worth a little bit less points, but they're all still very important. This category involves basically how well can your team deal with hazards. Like do you have a rapid spinner, a defogger, like magic bounce, court change, something along those lines to get those hazards off your field, so you don't have to put boots on every single Pokemon. It's also very important that in this category that Pokemon can support each other with things like Light Screen, Reflect, and Wish. Once again, this category also cares about how strong the Pokemon are in this category. So Pokemon like Screamtail are very, very good for this category. Next category is status and disruption. So basically, how much can you mess with the opponent's game plan? Like, do you have good Encore taunt users? You have good Pokemon that can spread status like Burn, Sleep. Sleep's a big one, and Paralysis, or just knock off the opponent's item. This basically allows you to make progress and stop the opponent's threats. Next category is how offensive is your team? Like, how many good attacking Pokemon do you have? And like, also, how good is the balance between your physical and special attackers? Because if you have all of one category, it's really easy for the opponent to just EV all into like defense if you have only physical attackers. It'll really hinder them and make it really easy to prep against your team. What also really matters is how easily is it for your team to pivot between Pokemon. Like you have good U-turn users, Volt Switch users, or just good Pokemon like you can just switch in, switch out, like Landorus Therian, for example. Next category is the speed tiers and priority your team has. Basically, you want your team to have at least one fast threat so that the opponent has to maximize the speed and lot of their team. But you also want to have a good range of speeds because if all your speeds are like 50 and then 100 and then like 120, there's this whole range between 50 and 100 where the opponent doesn't really need to put any speed EVs in their Pokemon because there's like they're either going to be way slower than the 100 base speed Pokemon or way faster than the base 150 speed. So it's a good idea to have a good spread of speed EVs. Also, priority is a big thing because it's probably the best way to stop a setup sweeper like Volcarona. If you can just have a priority move that you can outspeed it with priority, knock it out. So a team should have a good panic option or two with priority. Final category is the defenses of the team. Basically, how well can you wall the opponent's threats, and how well do these walls work together? And you have like physical walls, special walls, and you get extra credit also for having good Pokemon like Dondozo or Quagsire, which have the ability Unaware, which is really, really important because it's the best way to stop us for that sweeper. Alright, so let's get into the first team, which is the New York Jirachis. Their team is missing a ghost type, which knocks them a few points. And they have really no good fairy resist, because the only two Pokemon that resist fairy are Salazzle and Muck, which are pretty mid to low tier Pokemon. So it's pretty easy for a fairy type to do some good damage to this team. In terms of hazards, they're also pretty good. Donphan's a really solid Pokemon with Stealth Rocks, I believe. And also they get Spikes from Chestnut. So those two Pokemon, you can bring either one and set up some good hazards. They're not the best, but overall they're pretty good. As terms of how threatening this team is, I would say it's decently scary. Like Shenpao can, when it gets in, it can do a lot of damage thanks to its Sword of Ruin ability. And if you throw a Choice Band on that thing, it can demolish things. Or it can have Boots and just be used as a pivot. Like you pivot it in and out, constantly threaten things with Sucker Punch, Sword Stance. And as like kind of a more of a sub threat, there's Haxorus as well, which can Dragon Dance. It has Mold Breaker, so it can get the abilities like Rotom Washes, Levitate. It can just Earthquake that anyways. Or Mimikyu's Disguise, it can just break through that. Okay, in terms of hazard controls, this team is pretty solid, because Donphan is just, like I said before, great Pokemon. You can switch it in, Rapid Spin away those hazards. Team is missing any other options for hazard removal, but Donphan does a pretty good job. Also have a great support Pokemon in terms of Alomomola, which can like Wish Pass, Baton Pass out, get your Pokemon back to full health. And Grimmsnarl can come in, set up screens, and Parting Shot out there just really help support the team. So pretty good. Disruption, basically the same users again. Donphan can knock off all your Pokemon. Since Grimmsnarl has Prankster, it's really good at messing with the opponent's team because there's so many abilities you can throw on it, like Misty Terrain to stop priority if you want. Thunder Wave, Prankster was really good. Prankster, like Parting Shot, Prankster screens, like Grimmsnarl is just a very solid disruption Pokemon. And the team also has various other Pokemon that can use Will-O-Wisp and Thunder Wave. Okay, in terms of the offenses, the team is very strong physically, mostly because of Shenpao. Like, it has a very high attack and Sword of Ruin, it can just break through things. Haxorus has one of the highest attack stats in the game. There's some other okay ones, like Donphan has decent attack, Grimmsnarl has decent attack. Where the team is more lacking, definitely on the special side of things, it's really what's hurting the score, because the only real special attacker that's threatening is Cinderaces. Like, Goodra is somewhat threatening as well, but besides those two Pokemon, there's really no other special attacker on the team. So, especially when I played the York Jirachis last week, I had almost no special defense EVs on any of my Pokemon. The team also has pretty good pivot options, because Grimmsnarl, Parting Shot, Thunderous U-Turn, and Alomomola Baton Pass. All pretty solid pivots. Now, if we want to take a look at these speed tiers for this team, unfortunately for the New York Jirachis, they have a lot of Pokemon between 50 and 65. Like, they're very slow, so it's very easy to EV against this team speed-wise. But to counterbalance this, the team has great priority because Shenpao's Sucker Punch can kill so many things. And if you need more priority, you have Grimmsnarl with Sucker Punch as well. So, pretty good pick. In terms of defenses, this team is very solid, and I had a lot of trouble trying to figure out how to break this team because Usui and Goodra is an absolute beast. It could take so many hits, especially if you throw an Assault Vest, and has a great typing. Steel Dragon is an amazing typing. And 150 special defense, like, for example, Iron Bundle does about 20% with Ice Beam to this thing. Like, it's ridiculous how bulky it is. In terms of physical wall, this team also is not lacking at all. Donphan is an amazing physical wall, along with the Alomomola with the ability to Wish and Baton Pass, and just wall things. Muck and Cresselia also offers some decent walling support. And the team can form a nice, like, Steel Fairy Dragoncore with Grimmsnarl, like Haxorus, and Goodra, for example, something like that. And you can just pivot between them, and it's a very solid defensive core. So overall, New York Jirachis, very solid team. I rated them overall 85 out of 100, and they make it into the A tier. By the way, there will be a tier list at the very end showing every single team. Okay, on to the next team, which is the Boston Blazikens. Once again, Boston Blazikens are missing a Ghost type, so it's really easy to Rapid Spin on them. But in terms of weaknesses, there's no real weakness. Like, they might be lacking a Rock Resist, but they have Tinkaton, which is basically going to come to every match. It's such a solid Pokemon, so this team will always have Rock Resist. So they do quite well in this category. Nothing really to exploit against this team. In terms of hazards, They are very good hazard setters. Tinkaton, very solid Pokemon, super defensive, great move into Tinkaton Hammer, can set Stealth Rocks, has screens options, can knock off, so it's a very good hazard setter. And they also have Toadscrow, which can be like a secondary kind of hazard setter, and Spikes. And if the team really wants to be really spicy, they can maybe go with Toxic Spikes from Iron Moth, but Iron Moth usually has better things to do. In terms of threat, this team has some very scary Pokemon, because Palafin is ridiculous. 160 base attack, and if you slap a Choice Band on that thing, Wave Crash, any slow Pokemon, like even if it's this water, it's probably still gonna die. And if you want to be a little faster, you throw a Choice Scarf. Want to be bulkier, go Assault Vest or Citrus Berry. So there's a lot of options. And Palafin, he just KOs so many Pokemon easily. And that's not it. That's the reason why I gave them a 15 and 50 in this category is because there's a second threat that's almost as scary with Baxcalibur, Dragon Dance, because it can Terra into, I believe, Electric Dragon. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. I think those are the options. So it gives a lot of different versatility there, and has a ridiculous attack stat, and can easily sweep a team. Hazard control is where the Boston Blazikens I think lose the most points overall. Their only hazard control really is Toadscrow with Rapid Spin, which Toadscrow is an okay Pokemon. It's not the best, but it'll do the job. Also has a pretty weak Wish Passage and Dash Bun. There's definitely stronger options, but once again does the job. And they can set screens with various Pokemon like Tinkaton and such. And I believe Toadscrow can too. Disruption. There's very good disruption thanks to the Axe of the Spore. I really rate a team's Axe of the Spore super highly, especially with Basilium Might. Allows Toadscrow to just sleep. Even Pokemon like Godengo and just ignore their abilities. Just you go to sleep. Deal with it. Tinkaton also is great with knockoff and can spread Thunder Wave. So just this team has very good ways to control your team and knock off your items and mess with you. Offenses, like mentioned before in the threats category, this team is not lacking whatsoever on offense. Palafin and Baxcalibur make for excellent physical attackers. And Iron Jugulas and Iron Mouth also have ridiculously high special attack and can easily break through anything. Team also has a lot of pivots. Iron Jugulas, Rotamo, and Iron Mouth, for example, can U-turn and Volt Switch around. Very strong. So overall, 10 out of 10 in that category. No doubt about it. Speed tier is also Neji Boston's team has a little bit of trouble there. Their fastest Pokemon isn't super fast. Like Iron Mouth is fast, but most teams will have a Pokemon faster than it, so it's pretty easy for them to cut back on the speed EVs there. But overall, it has a pretty good balance of speed ranges, so that's all good. And has arguably one of the best priority moves with Jet Punch from Palafin. The only others I could think of is maybe Dragonite Extreme Speed or Scissor Bullet Punch or Chen Sucker Punch. Maybe those are the only ones better, but great priority in this team, can easily come back and revenge kill with Palafin. And also to top the cherry on things, Baxcalibur can come in Ice Shard, also will do a lot of damage. So overall, the defenses on this team are pretty decent. It's really carried though by Dondozo. That's basically the only real defensive Pokemon on the team besides maybe Tinkaton. But it has some decent walling potentials. And has many different grass defensive cores. Like you can go Rotamo and Dondozo and Iron Moth for a Fire Water Grass core, which can work really well together. You can also go Steel Fairy Dragon with Tinkaton and Baxcalibur. Yeah, can form a nice core there. And yeah, overall, pretty solid defenses. Could be a little better. They could maybe use one more wall, but overall, it's a very solid team. And they get 91 out of 100 on my ranking. They're an S tier. Very good job. Very strong team. Next is the San Antonio Slitherwings, which this team has a lot of type weaknesses, I must say. They have a pretty big weakness to Steel overall. The only real Pokemon are Torkoal and Vaporeon, which are okay. They also have Psychic, Water, Rock Fighting, so they lose a lot of points in that category. They also don't have a Ghost type for Rapid Spin, and not too bad. Missing a Dragon and a Steel type is kind of not great either. So overall, I rank them fairly low in this category, only 7 out of 20. Hazards though, this team is very good, mostly because of Glamora. Has ability to spread Stealth Rocks, spikes, toxic spikes, and if you hit Glimmora, it's going to spread more toxic spikes. Also can set Stealth Rocks from Hippowdon or Torkoal 2, which is very good options. And in terms of threats, this team is also pretty threatening. Enamorous has two main sets that it runs, either Contrary or Calm Mind, both of which are very good. Like Enamorous can start sweeping you with Superpower Contrary, or Calm Mind Moonblast can really do some damage. Sneasler is also very strong with the ability to unburden and basically double its speed and just start killing things with Close Combat and Dire Claw. Can also pivot around, so it's a very threatening Pokemon as well. So I gave him pretty good scores in both these categories. Hazard control, this team is very good because it has two main options in Torkoal or Glimmora. Mortal Spin Glimmora or Rapid Spin Torkoal, both very good options. And also they have probably the best kind of support move in Aurora Veil with the Bombasnow. Bombasnow is such a good Pokemon when it gets the Aurora Veil up, especially if you don't stop it. Because it's instead of taking 2 turns to the Light Screen and Reflect, just 1 turn. The only downside, of course, is the typing on a Bombasnow is quite bad. But if you get in the right position, this thing is a beast. And was a huge reason that it really helped out in my other draft league I did a while back. In terms of disruption, this team is kind of lacking though. There's no knockup user, and there's very few status options besides Toxic, like Glimmora. So overall, in terms of disruption, this team doesn't have much. So they lose a lot of points in that category. In terms of offenses, team's pretty solid. Steezler is a great offensive attacker. Zarude is okay. It's not my favorite Pokemon, but it can do some work. And Lycanroc is also not as good as the Dusk form because it's missing Tough Claws, but it can help out too. Enamorous is a great special attacker, but also could be a physical attacker depending on which set you run. And Glimmora also has a very solid special attack stat, although it's often not the main purpose of Glimmora. More of its purpose is to set up the hazards and take them away, but it can still do a lot of damage. The pivots on the team are also okay. Sneasler is a great pivot, of course. Vaporeon, Baton Pass, and Zarude, like I said, not my favorite Pokemon, but can do the job. The team also has very good speed distribution, like very good balance, and has great fast Pokemon. Sneasler can even double its speed, so you're all set on that. And has decent priority options with Excel Rock from Lycanroc or Sucker Punch, or it can Ice Shard with a Bombasnow. In terms of defenses, this team is kind of lacking in my opinion. Many of the Pokemon are very attack-oriented and not many defenses. The only real defenses that this team has, like Vaporeon, is like a Wish Passer, which is solid. It's a good Pokemon. But Torkoal is definitely lacking on the special defensive side and is really slow, so it's quite easy to knock out. And Hippowdon is also a very good wall. And yeah, none of the Pokemon, in my opinion, really synergize that well together, so it's really hard to form a really good defensive core with this team, in my opinion. So rated kind of lowly in that category. So overall, 72 out of 100, not bad. C tier though, just mostly held back by the type weaknesses. If you got different Pokemon to cover those weaknesses, the team would shoot up way higher in the rankings. Because you have some real threatening Pokemon with Enamorous and Sneasler. So you have real threats, but unfortunately for this team, just too many type weaknesses. So it makes it too easy to prep against. Next team, Sapporo Snovers. Also missing a ghost type, so there's no way to block Rapid Spin. And also, the team has a slight weakness to Fairy, I'd say. No real good Fairy resist except for Slowking Galar. If you take that out, Fairy Pokemon can just kind of go to town. Although Klefki does the job as well. Also, Ice is a minor thing, but not a big deal, and mostly it's because Altaria and Salamence are the same type, so it's not that big of a deal. Didn't dock any points for that. Hazards, yeah, this team has some great hazard support. Quagmire is a great Pokemon, just come in and ignore everything. Be awesome like Quagmire is. Set up spikes, Stealth Rocks, Toxic Spikes, and everything. Klefki can also set up spikes as well, and also great in that role. So, the only thing I'd like to see from this team, maybe a Sticky Web or one more hazard setter besides Quagmire or Klefki, but very solid in terms of hazards. Team has some great threats. Urshifu Single Strike is the better Urshifu, and overall does a lot of damage because it doesn't lack the weakness of the Surging Strikes hitting 3 times. Because it's very easy to just throw on a Rocky Helmet, force the Urshifu to run Protective Paths for the Rapid Strike variant, but not an issue for Single Strike because it hits only once. And crits goes through Protects or anything. Also, Salamence can be a bit of a threat because it can Dragon Dance up, but can also Wall Break, so you have to really figure out what the Salamence set is and play around it because it has 2 very strong sets in terms of Dragon Dance and Moxie offensive, or like more of a Wall Breaker, defensive Intimidate set, special attacker. So very good Pokemon as well, pretty threatening. And Hoopa also insane attack, a 160 attack, 170 special attack, I believe, or maybe it's the other way around. But either way, ridiculous attack set, only held back by its typing, but it's covered by the fact that it can just tear out of it in this case because it's the Shadow Captain. In terms of hazard control, this team is not the best. There was definitely better hazard control users than just Defog or Terria, because it can often be threatened out by many other Pokemon due to its 4-times weakness to Ice and the fact it's a flying type, so it threatened a lot. Team also lacks any kind of wish support, but at least it has Klefki, which is a very, very good screen setter. In terms of disruption, the team is also pretty good, thanks to Hoopa Unbound, a very, very strong knockoff. And Quagmire just kind of does his thing, just toxics you and just sits there, takes all the hits, recovers back up, so you really, really stop your setup sweepers with all those, with all that Quagmire power. Klefki also can pranks to Thunderbolt, Thunderwave you as well, so pretty good options. In terms of offenses, team has great physical attack in terms of Urshifu and Hoopa. Iron Leaves too, very strong. Yeah. In terms of special attackers, also pretty good. Hoopa again, could be a special attacker. Salamence, Inteleon, all very, very strong. The only thing holding this team back from offensive side is the fact it's lacking some pivots. Really the only pivots on the team are like Slowking, Chilly Reception, Inteleon with U-turn. Besides that, there's no pivots, so slight weakness there, but overall very solid on the terms of offenses. In terms of speed, also very good. Good balance of speed tiers. Very fast Pokemon Inteleon, and have great priority options because you can send Ditto in with Choice Scarf and just KO things, stop the setup sweeper. And also Sucker Punch from Urshifu hits like a truck, so yeah, no issues in that regard for this team. Finally, defenses, pretty solid defenses thanks to Slowking and Quagsire. They make a pretty good defensive pairing. They can work together and stop a lot of threats. Good physical wall in terms of Quagsire. Very solid defense, considering the fact that it has a great typing and unaware. And Slowking Galore wall all the special attackers. Throw an Assault Vest on that thing potentially, or leftovers, and can just keep pivoting in and out with Regenerator, Chilly Reception. So overall, pretty good defenses. I'd like to see once again maybe one more three defensive walls really, like 3 good defensive walls, but pretty good defenses overall. So total 83 out of 100. So land this off in the B tier, and a pretty solid team there. Only really held back by the hazard control and support. If they got some better hazard control, then this team would would move up to the A tier. Okay, next down, Lavender Town Lamps. Yeah, the main issue of this team is that it's missing a flying type, which is huge. So that way you basically can click Earthquake for free on this team. So that's a pretty big weakness. Also, pretty big weakness to Fairy. Not too many resist, but they do have a solid Pokemon to counter Fairy with Scizor. And they also have no flying resist, which is also very annoying for the team, because you can just go and click Hurricane with like Iron Jugulus or Pelipper and just start killing things, and there's no resist to it. So the Lavender Town Lamps definitely a little bit hurt in that category. Hazard's also the other part of Lavender Town Lamps that really suffers, considering that they only have one hazard setter in Hisui and Quillfish, which is, it can do the job with spikes, but there are many, many better hazard setters, and that's the only option this team has. And no Stealth Rock, so your flying types, you don't have to ever worry about boots. In terms of threat, this team has a lot of threats. Dragapult Of course, one of the fastest Pokemon in the game besides Lucky and Electrode. With Choice Specs, Shadow Ball, Choice Specs, Draco Meteor can do a lot of damage. Keiser, also a great Pokemon. Swords Dance, Bullet Punch can start just doing damage to a team sweeping through it. Lilligant can set up with Victory Dance, start using its Hustle, Leaf Blade, start killing things, close combat, great typings work together. Also, Guts Luna or Iron Hands both have insane attack stat and can just like clicking buttons and killing things. So overall, pretty threatening team. Hazard control, not bad, not bad. Sizer can be used as defog. Probably don't want to run Sizer defog because you probably want to run Swords Dance, Bullet Punch, any of U-turn, close combat, aerial ace, thief, some other coverage option. But it still can be used defog in certain matchups. And Sylveon is a great support Pokemon because it can Wish Pass and set up screens. In terms of disruption, this team is missing Knockoff, which is huge, and also doesn't have many hazard spreaders, status spreaders, except for like Will-O-Wisp from Dragapult and Sleep Powder Lilligant. Besides that, this team can't really stop you with any disruption. No Prankster user or fast status setter except for like Dragapult. Offenses though, this team has very, very good offenses. Like there was a lot of Pokemon with high attack stats or special attack stats, great pivots. So easy 10 out of 10. Like Scissor, Iron Hands, Ursaluna, Lilligant, all great attack stats to all easily break down walls. Dragapult, Volcanion, also insane special attack, and just yeah, very, very solid offenses. No issue there on that in terms of this team. In terms of speed though, this team kind of suffers. Overall, probably one of the slowest teams in the league, except for the Dragapult and Lilligant. Like every other Pokemon on the team is really slow, so it'll probably be a running issue for this team is that you're outsped by everything with all the Pokemon. But to make up for that as well, Sizer has Bullet Punch, which is very good priority. In terms of defenses, it's okay. Not the best, not the worst. Like they have a good special wall with like once again Assault Vest Gudra, but not as good as the Sui form because it's lacking the Steel typing. Sylveon is also a great special wall. Quillfish can be a good physical wall with Intimidate and Eviolite and like decent defense stat. Or Oranguru also can be a good wall. Can even set up Trick Room and get out of there. So it's decent options. Not the best defensive team, but definitely could be worse. So overall, nice 69 out of 100. Mostly held back by the hazards. If the team had a second hazard setter, this team would be so much better. But overall, not a bad team. Not a bad team. Next team, the Rainbow Road Ninetails. So this team has a lot of issues from the get-go. They're missing a Ghost type for Spin Blocker, and they have no grounded Poison type. That means when any Pokemon switch in against Toxic Spikes, they're going to get poisoned without boots. It's a huge weakness. The team also has big weaknesses to water, because they don't have many. They have so many Pokemon on the team weak to water. Same with ground. Ground is huge. They have many Pokemon that have the same weaknesses, and fighting as well. A lot of Pokemon weak to fighting and rock. Yeah. Overall, this team could definitely use some, like, could benefit from maybe switching like Iron Thorns out for like Hisuian Bravery. Really help the team out. Give them a ground resist, and also give them less Pokemon that are weak to fighting and ground, basically. That'll be my suggestion for this team overall. But besides that, there's no other glaring weaknesses in terms of typing. But yeah, definitely could use some improvement. The hazards, this team is very good. Sticky web option. This is the first team that I think we've covered with sticky webs. So it's just annoying for the prep. You have to deal with the fact that there might be a web since all of a sudden all your fastest Pokemon are slower. Iron Treads is a great Pokemon for setting Stealth Rocks. One of the best in the OU. Tyranitar is also to set Stealth Rocks. Iron Thorns can do spikes, but Iron Thorns is not that great, so it's basically completely outshadowed by Tyranitar, so there's not many reasons to ever bring Iron Thorn in for this team. In terms of threats, this team does have Dragonite or Tyranitar with Dragon Dance, which should be pretty threatening, but due to the lack of either Pokemon having Terra, can't really sweep a team. Cinderace is also a pretty fast Pokemon. Swords dance up and start power balling things. Can be pretty threatening. But overall, the team is missing like that a truly scary Pokemon that I'm afraid to go against. So not the highest rating in threats. Hazard control, hard carried by the fact that Cinderace has court change and it's like the best hazard like removal move in the game. Cause like you're always afraid to set hazards against this team because they'll just flip it over. And to make it even better, they have Iron Treads, which has great rapid spinner and just overall very solid Pokemon. Gardevoir is also pretty good for wish passing and can be pretty threatening as well. Team also has really good disruption with Brute Bonnet with its build as a Spore, which is very annoying for many teams. Many good Pokemon with Thunder Wave, Will-O-Wisp, and can also have knockoff support from Iron Treads, which is basically coming to every match because Iron Treads is amazing. Offenses, the team has good offenses, except until you notice that this team has no special attacker. The only real special attacker the team has is Gardevoir. So if you have a especially defensive role that's good against Gardevoir, you're never going to break it with this team. But on the physical side, great offensive attackers: Tyranitar, Dragonite, Cinderace, Iron Treads, Brute Bonnet. They're all very, very good physical attackers. And the team has good pivots in Cinderace and Iron Treads. They can pivot around, so the real bread and butter of the team, they're Cinderace, Iron Treads. But yeah, just held back hard by the lack of special attackers on the team that are actually good, because Pyroar is basically non-existent and won't be brought to most matches in my opinion. And same with Carbink as well, pretty mediocre. In terms of speed tiers, this team does a very good job. There's a nice distribution of speed tiers, except there's 3 Pokemon with base 80 speed, but I can overlook that. Not too big of a deal. And they have a great priority user, of course, with Dragonite, with extreme speed, and 2 Sucker Punch users with Cinderace and Brute Bonnet. So, no issues with speed for this team. Yeah, in terms of defenses, this team also is very lacking. They basically only have one wall in Cloaking and Carbink, but Carbink is pretty bad except in the PU2, where it's actually, I've heard that they're talking about banning it potentially because it's basically like not the Zamazenta. I can't remember the name anymore, but like the legendary from Gen 8 with the shield. Basically, it's like that, but in the PU2, which is kind of funny. Slowking is basically the only real wall of this team. Every other Pokemon has too many weaknesses to be a good wall overall and more offensively threatening. So, team suffers quite a lot in terms of defenses. Overall, 71 out of 100, so falls to the C tier. Like I said, very easy way to fix this team. Just add Serene Bravery. Would really help the team out. Switch it out for Iron Thorns. And maybe add another special attacker, maybe like Toxtricity. Get rid of like Pyroar and Carbink to Toxtricity, and then make the team a lot better. Next team, my favorite team, the fuck team, I call it. That's the acronym, anyways. I really like the acronym. Overall, 10 out of 10 for the team name. My favorite team name. Unfortunately, though, this team is lacking a ground type. So, if the Fayetville Uxie Krew ever goes against Dankerstad with his Regieleki, he's going to go to town. We're just Volt Switching, and Regieleki's going to demolish this team. And that's always why you want a ground type. This team also has some weaknesses to Fairy, because there's only one Fairy resist in Cerulege. Every other Pokemon doesn't resist it, so it's not great. Ice type's also weakness. Once again, Cerulege is like overworked, the only ice resist on the team. And this team has also no good flying resist, except for the Gudra baby form, which is not very good. It's okay, it does the job, but Sligo Hisui. Yeah, it's not amazing. But with Eviolite, it can be kind of bulky, but not nearly as threatening as Gudra Hisui. Hazards, this team is very good. Stealth Rocks and Kleavor, and Spikes, Toxic Spikes, and Overquill, very good options. It's very solid, especially because Kleavor can set Stealth Rocks while attacking at the same time, so very good Pokemon. And this team has great threats thanks to Valiant and this 5 million sets they can run, like Choice Specs, Choice Band, Choice Scarf, like Booster Energy, like there's so many different sets you can run on Valiant. Agility, Swords Dance, there's so many sets, so it's really hard to prep against this Pokemon. But this team also has a little bit of spice. You can even run Dragonette, Hydreigon, or bulk up Cerulege, all pretty good threats. So this team does have some scary things to worry about when you go against them. Hazard control, it's okay. You have Defog on Noivern and Cleaver, but Cleaver often doesn't want to be a defogger. It has many other moves it wants to run. Noivern as well, might have to drop a coverage move, like might have to lose Flamethrower for defog, which can be a bit of an issue. And the team has many Scream Center options with Sableye and Wo-Chien, I believe, and others as well. The team has so many knockoff users with Sableye, Rillaboom, and Wo-Chien knockoff. And Prankster Sableye just generally can be really disruptive with Prankster Encore, Prankster Taunt, Prankster Burn, Prankster Screens. Like, it's a very good disruption Pokemon. Don't sleep on this Pokemon. Offenses, the team's pretty solid. Rillaboom with Grassy Surge, Choice Band, Woodhammer can demolish Pokemon that even resist it. Iron Valiant as well, great offenses, physically and specially. Ledge also, Bulk Up, Shadow Sneak, Weak Armor sets potentially, Flash Fire, so many sets, very good offensive attacker. Special attackers, there's Hydreigon, which is a great special attacker, but also not bad attack as well. Zoroark as well with the Skies and Hyperforce, do a lot of damage. And no lack of pivots with Noivern, Rillaboom, Hydreigon, Cleaver, a lot of U-turn. So I like to see that, so pretty solid offensively. Could maybe only do with maybe one more special attacker, but very solid team in terms of offenses. Speed, the team's held back a little bit by the too many Pokemon base 85 speed, so it's really easy to just speed creep that. But besides that, they have good priority on Ledge. It could be a little better, besides just the one priority option. But I guess there's also Sableye with Sucker Punch. But like the priority on the team's okay. It could be better, but at least there's still the options. So give them a decent score for that. Now, in terms of defenses, the team is a little lacking. Overquill is a great physical wall with Intimidate, of course. And Sligo is like the only real special wall. Unfortunately, there's no other Pokemon that does a great job besides Wo-Chien as well. Wo-Chien can special wall. But Wo-Chien is plagued by its typing and is very weak to U-turn because it's 4 times weak to that. But Wo-Chien's still not a bad Pokemon. But overall, I think this team could use with maybe one more special wall or something besides Sligo. So overall, pretty good team. 76 out of 100. They fall solidly in the B tier. Just if they patch up their weaknesses to Ice and Fairy, that would really help the team out. And maybe get one more defensive wall. Okay, next, my team, the Tokyo Tricksters. Yeah, so the main weakness of this team is that I don't have a grounded poison type. So very susceptible to Toxic Spikes if I don't defog it. And also the team has some problems against Stealth Rocks and like Stone Edge users. But Rock isn't the worst type to be weak against because Stone Edge and Rock Slide are the only real Rock type attack moves and both have tendencies to miss. But still lose some points for that. In terms of hazard setting, Tokyo Tricksters have a pretty good setter with Landorus, of course. One of the best Pokemon OU sleeper for basically all time. And basically always will be OU. Until Power Creep, maybe Gen 12. Maybe he'll fall down to UU. And also Gastrodon with spikes as well. Very good defensive wall. It's hard to break through, can recover. And just Gastrodon is just an amazing Pokemon. In terms of threats, the team has a very threatening Pokemon with Dragon Dance Roaring Moon. Also has Terra options, so it can go Terra Flying Acrobatics with booster energy. And if it gets one Dragon Dance, this thing can just sweep through a team. Choice Band Iron Bundle can do a lot of damage because the combination of Freeze Dry plus Hydro Pump, there's no resist to it. So you're going to take a lot of damage without an Assault Vest high special defense user. The Mimikyu also can Swords Dance up and start Shadow Sneaking to be a threatening endgame Pokemon. So pretty threatening team to fight. Hazard control, the team's okay. It has Defog Talonflame and Rapids and Serena. Talonflame's a very solid Pokemon. Serena's okay. Can be useful in certain matchups. The team is lacking any kind of wish support though, and screen setters. The only screen setters on the team are Magnezone and Serena, which are not typically usually screen setters, so not really an option for the team. But yeah, so it's losing some points for that. There was disruption. Okay, knockoff units in Pelipper. There's definitely a stronger knockoff units like Koopa Unbound, but does the job and has good status disruptors because Mimikyu can have Will-O-Wisp and can't do anything about it because it has Disguise, so you can't knock it out. And Megazone can spread paralysis as well, Thunder Wave. So not bad in disruption, could be better, but decent. In terms of offenses, team has great physical offense with Roaring Moon. Oh, I did not update this. There's no floats anymore. It's low kicks now, and Lander's Therian. And in terms of special side, there's Iron Bundle and Magnezone, which great special attackers. The team could maybe use from one more special attacker because it is more physical focus, but the team has probably the most pivots, especially since I switched Floatzel and Glimmet for low kicks. 8 of the 10 Pokemon have options to pivot with U-turn, Volt Switch, or Flip Turn. Just held back by missing one more special attacker, basically. Yeah, in terms of priority, team is very, very good. Has low kicks for first impression, second punch, and Mimikyu with Shadow Sneak. The speed tiers are pretty evenly distributed and have one of the fastest threats in the game, besides like the fourth fastest real threat in the game. Like there's like Regieleki, like Hisuian Electrode, Dragapult, and then Iron Bundle. So it's like the fourth fastest Pokemon in the game. So very good speed. And the defenses of this team are also pretty good. Can easily form a Fire, Water, Grass core with Talonflame, Serena, and Gastrodon. Have great physical wall, Talonflame, and Pelipper. And Gastrodon's a great special wall. And Therian just can wall everything with an Assault Vest, Intimidate. You can't really break through this thing without Ice type attacks. Mimikyu has its Disguise. Magnezone has great defenses. Easily also slap on an Assault Vest or Red Iron defense. Make Magnezone really bulky. And Serena also has really good defenses. So overall, this team is has very good defenses. So overall, 87 out of 100. I gave myself 8 here. Okay, next, New York Yampers. They're not missing any important type, which is great. And unfortunately, this team has a very slight weakness, I'd say, to Ice, Flying, and Fairy. Yeah, but they do have good resist for Ice, like Fortress and Tauros. And for Flying, they have like Thunderous, which is basically coming to every match. And for Fairy, once again, they have Fortress. But if Fortress gets overworked, it's very easy for Fairy and Ice to break through this team after that. Okay, in terms of hazard control, there's Garchomp and Fortress, both very, very good hazard setters with Stealth Rocks and Spikes, so no problem with that team there. And this team also has some really good threats. Spectrio is very fast, can run Substitute, has the Grimnai ability, so if it gets a kill, it can snowball out of control and outspeed most Pokemon with base 130 speed. And Zapdos is also a setup sweeper, along with Garchomp, so those can also be pretty threatening and have overall decently high attack stats. Hazard control, this team is very solid thanks to Hatterene with Magic Bounce, so you always have to think twice before clicking Stealth Rocks or Spikes against this team. And also, if the hazards do come out, Fortress, again, solid defensive Pokemon that can remove hazards. And also a lot of screen setters like Hatterene, again. In terms of disruption, has good knockoff use in Muck. And Dunsparce can spread paralysis all over with Glare and Body Slam with Serene Grace, so it's like 60% chance to paralyze. Inspector also can run Will-O-Wisp, really fast burn setter that's used in VGC a lot, so I imagine that could be also quite good in singles. Offenses, this team is set. This team has great offenses on both sides. Garchomp, Zapdos, and Tauros make a great physical attacking side, and Spectre, Thunderous, Hatterene, all great special attackers. And has good pivots, Zapdos, Thunderous, and Forest, all very solid Pokemon, and can pivot around easily and get Pokemon in position. Yeah, this team, the main thing holding it back from being A tier, like everything else this team has been great at, is its speed and priority is not very good. This team is very polarized. You're fast or you're slow. There's no middle tiers. Like it goes from the Dunsparce to Tauros. So any Pokemon like base 65 speed, 70 speed to like 99 speed, they don't need to run much speed at all to easily outspeed slow Pokemon. Unless of course they go like Choice Scarf to Dunsparce, which is an interesting decision if you do that. So it makes it easy for the opponent to prep to speed creep you. Also, the team is lacking priority. The only real priority option is Tauros with Aqua Jet, but there's also Muck with Shadow Sneak. Defenses, this team is very solid. Garchomp is a great physical defense of Pokemon. It can often runs Rocket Helmet in OU tier. Forest as well, Rocket Helmet as well. Solid physical defense as well. Muck is also a great defensive Pokemon with Assault Vest, and Crocodile has Unaware as well, so could be used in certain matchups in a pinch. And a solid Steel Fairy Dragon Core with Hatterene, Garchomp, and Fortress. Very solid defensive core there. So overall, 84 out of 100. This team is. It feels weird because this team feels like an A tier team. It's just held back in the speed priority category. Like this team, if it fixed that one issue, is easily A tier. It just fell shy of being A tier. Next team, Honolulu Honchkrows. Overall did a good job making the team. There's no important types missing. But there is a weakness on the team to ice, as the only real ice switching. There's not too many ice switches. Azumarill, of course, is a good Pokemon. Toxapex, but there's just so many of the team that has an ice weakness, so it's very easy to click Ice Crash or Ice Beam on this team, and not much they can do. And also slight weakness to Fairy, but not too big of a deal. Okay, in terms of hazard, this team is one of the best in the league. Masquerado is a great spike setter. Orthworm's a great Pokemon as well, with Stealth Rock and Spikes, very defensive. Toxapex with its Toxic Spikes. Mudsteel is also a very solid physical wall with Stealth Rock. Really good RU Pokemon. This team, the biggest thing it suffers from is its lack of real scary Pokemon. The only real super threats are Azumarill with Belly Drum potentially, or Choice Band. Do a lot of damage, but it's not as scary as many other threats other teams have, and pretty easy to stop if you have a Prankster Pokemon. And there's also Unburdened Hawlucha, which can be pretty solid as well. There's many different ways for it to lose this item with either White Herb, Focus Sash, Citrus Berry, or like some kind of Weakness Berry of some sort. Or Weakness Policy even, that would be pretty spicy. Yeah, I'd like to see that one time. But yeah, Hawlucha is a very solid Pokemon as well, but not the scariest Pokemon in the league. There's definitely a lot scarier. Hazard control, this team is lacking as well. The only real option is Cyclizar, which is not the best Pokemon, and there's not very many options for screens or wish passing. But Cyclizar at least has Regenerator, but it really is lacking the Shed Tail, really hurts it. In terms of disruption, this team is pretty good as well. Masquerade is a great knockoff Pokemon. There's also Cyclizar and Hoopa. Hoopa is also another very solid Pokemon in the Terra Captain, so it can stick around for a while. The team can also spread Toxic from Toxapex and paralyze you, but if you start setting up with a physical attacker, you can't burn it. There's no option for this team to burn, so that does hinder it a little bit. Offenses, the team is very, very good. There's Masquerada, Hawlucha, and Azumarill, all very strong physical attackers potentially. And also on the special side, Hoopa has a ridiculously high special attack stat. Zoroark is okay, and Kilowatcher is a fast special attacker. And this team has too many pivots to list. There's so many different Pokemon that can switch. And in terms of speed, this team is also pretty good. Just missing some. It's kind of like the less extreme version of the 55 to 100, the 70 to 105. It's less extreme. Speed gap difference, but has good priority options because Azumarill really threatening with huge power Aqua Jet, and Masquerada with Sucker Punch can easily revenge kill anything. So pretty good in the speed control department. And defenses, this team's also very good. Mudsteel is a great defensive wall, same with Orthworm. Hoopa has great special defense, only held back by its typing, but with the Terra option, it can easily fix that. Or Terra Fairy, I believe, or Terra Dark, I think are the options the team has. And Toxapex also a great defensive wall, and Tornadus, another great defensive wall. Yeah, this team, I want to say, probably is the best defensive team in the league, because they have so many regenerators with Toxapex, Tornadus, and Cyclizar, and a lot of pivots. So this team probably has the best defensive core in the league. Overall, 83 out of 100, B tier, solid team. Just mostly held back by the hazard control and support the team is missing. And missing a scary threat. Okay, next team, the Auburn Aggrons. Very well put together team, no missing types that are important, and it's only a very slight weakness to ground and psychic. Ice is not a really big deal because heat trans and Urshifu are coming to every match basically, so ice is not an issue. Just this very polarized weakness to ground, especially if Zapdos, if it has to roost, it's not going to resist Earthquake. And Drifloon is basically useless, so it's not coming to most matches. So there's not too much for this team in terms of ground. Okay, but overall, pretty solid team. In terms of hazards, pretty good. Only held back by no Pokemon learning spikes, so it does reduce the score a bit. But Stealth Rock is a great option from both Croak and Heatran, and can also have Toxic Spike options thanks to Gengar and Dragalge. In terms of threat, this team is not the most threatening or scary. There's good Pokemon in it, don't get me wrong, there's good Pokemon, but there's just no real setup sweeper or like really scary Pokemon, because thanks to Shifu Rapid Strike being multi-hit, it's either going to have to run Protective Pads, so that way, or the new one, Punching Glove. Yeah, so it's not going to have much power, but it won't die to Rocky Helmet, or it's going to run Choice Band and Choice Scarf, but then it's going to take so much damage from Rocky Helmet, so this definitely holds it back compared to its counterpart with Single Strike. Hazard control, this team's okay. Not the best. They have to rely on pretty bad Pokemon. Hisuian Avalugg is frankly pretty terrible because it's just so slow and has no special defense. Drifloon's okay, but it's not the best Pokemon, and you often don't want to bring that compared to the other team Pokemon on this team. But where this team does shine with Florges is a great Wish Passer. Very high, like 150 special defense or 130 special defense. So very, very hard to remove this Pokemon. And Slowbro as well. Set up screens. It's a very good defensive Pokemon with Generator. Disruption, this team has decent options thanks to Gengar. Because one of my favorite sets to run is Dusty Bond Gengar, Focus Sash potentially. Or Choice Sky Focus Sash. I ran that once in my last league. It was quite a quite a funny shenanigan. Also, some great status options thanks to Zapdos with Paralysis, Heatran with Burn, and the ever important Spore from Breloom. Breloom's a great Pokemon, and just Spore is another great thing that makes it better. In terms of offenses, two great physical attackers. Urshifu and Breloom, also honorable credit to Croak as well, great physical attacker. And special attackers, Dragalge, it's really hard to switch into the combination of like Dragon Poison, especially combined with adaptability. It's very hard. And Gengar and Heatran also, no slouches either. Do a lot of damage, hard to switch into them. What's really only holding this team back is the lack of pivots. Only Zapdos and Florges. Besides that, there's no pivots, so it does hurt the team a bit. In terms of speed, just like Neji's team, there's only a base 110 speed Pokemon, so most teams will have a faster Pokemon than it. They'll have to run some kind of Choice Scarf to deal with that issue. But the speed to mix is very, very good. Nothing to complain about that. And the team has great priority thanks to Aqua Jet from Urshifu or Mach Punch from Technician Breloom. And also good defensive Pokemon. Like Zapdos is a great defensive wall, can easily pivot, boost up. Florges, great special wall. Slowbro, great physical wall. Then can easily do a Steel Fairy Dragon, because Heatran's also very good defensively. So we go Heatran plus Dragalge plus Florges. Three great defensive Pokemon that can easily form the basis of our team. So overall, 83 out of 100, very solid team. This team actually surprised me. I thought I was going to rank them higher overall, but just the lack of threats and hazard control really holds it back. I also thought that going into this team was going to rank A tier, but give them B tier. Next, Chicago Cinderaces. In my opinion, the scariest team in the league. I didn't rank them the highest overall, but they are very, very scary. The only weakness of this team is that there is no ground or poison type. So it's very easy to get toxic spikes in this team and do some work. They also have a lot of Pokemon weak to dark, so Sucker Punch is going to do a number on many of the Pokemon on this team. Yeah, in terms of hazards, two great hazard setters. Sandy Shocks is a really good Pokemon, one of the best hazard setters. Actually, I think moved up to the OU tier now because it's very solid. Good special attack, good speed, run Focus Sash if it wants to get up 2 layers of spikes. Bisharp as well can set up rocks. And if the team really needs it, they can run Bumblegrass as well for spikes, but Bumblegrass definitely is lacking compared to the other two hazard setters on this team. In terms of threat, the most threatening Pokemon in the league with Espatra. The main reason why I'm so scared of this team. Espatra with Terra Fairy, Terra Fighting. Yeah, can just win a game. Like, if it gets in, you don't have an answer to it. Just speed boost up, Calm Mind, Stored Power, everything dies. And that's about it. And it doesn't matter if you have an Unaware, because Stored Power doesn't care about your unawareness. But they also have Moltres as well, which is pretty threatening. You can easily agility up, go below half health to get to Berserker trigger, and then start killing things with Hurricane and Dark Pulse. Because Dark and Flying make great typing. And also Skeldridge can just start Torch Stalking and just keep boosting itself and do a lot of damage as well. It's pretty threatening Pokemon as well. In terms of hazard control, the team is not bad. Tatsugiri and Bumblegrass are both mid-tier Pokemon spinners. Like, yeah, they're okay Pokemon. They can do the job. In terms of supports, the team also has great screen setters, and you can also Healing Wish and DD to get like a Spellsure back in for free, and heal it back up. Disruption, this team is missing any knockoff, but it's easily made up for the fact they have Rotom Wash, which can spread paralysis and very bulky, and also same with Sandy Shock, so this team does have great Thunder Wave users on the team. Offenses, this team is very threatening as well. Bisharp and Slitherwing, great physical attackers, both with priority options. Skeledirge, Sandy Shocks, and Moltres, all great special attackers. And the team could easily pivot around with Rotom Wash, Sandy Shocks, and Moltres with the U-turn and Volt Switch. And in terms of speed, team does a great job balancing the speed tiers, and the Spellsure can just come and protect once and have the speed boost, so they have a truly fast Pokemon, so that's not an issue. And as mentioned before, Bisharp and Slitherwing have great priority options. Yeah, in terms of defenses, this team is pretty solid. Could be a little better, but Moltres Galore is very good defensively, as well as offensively. It's a very good Pokemon. Rotom Wash is also one of the best walls, have been OU staple for a very long time. And Goldango as well, the best hazard removal blocker, like because it's immunity to Defog and Rapid Spin. And Skeldridge as well, with Unaware, very good defenses, very good typing with Fire Ghost. Yeah, so Rotom and Skeldridge work very well together. You can throw Brambleghast in as well, make a Fire Water Grass core, which would be very good for a backbone for a team. Overall, I gave them 89 out of 100, so they fall into the A tier. It's a very good team. Alright, the next team, the Melrose Mabostiffs. Overall, I have all the types covered, just missing, not missing anything actually. Just a big weakness to water, thanks to the only water type resist is Walking Wake, which isn't even coming probably half the matches due to the fact that the team was robbed of getting Torkoal. And also, there's no weakness to Dark. There's a weakness to Rock. There's a typo in the slides. There's a Rock weakness on this team as well. Yeah, because King Gambit, you don't want to switch that in. A lot of the time you want to keep it in the back, so you don't want to take those Dark Pulses. And Palo Sand isn't often coming too often, but is actually pretty important for this team defensively. It's one of the only defensive walls that the team has. Yeah, in terms of hazards, pretty good options thanks to Mew and the ability to have all the hazards for Mew, but can also use Palo Sand as well as hazards with Stealth Rocks. In terms of threats, there's King Gambit with Swords Dance, not as scary as it could be thanks to not being the Terra Captain. But there's also Frostmoth, which is the Terra Captain with Quiver Dance, so it can easily start dancing up, and behind the screens the thing can start killing things. And if the team wants to, they could run Manual Sun with Walking Wake. Walking Wake, great physical attack with Choice Specs, or can run Choice Scarf, so easily can break through Pokemon. In terms of hazard control, one of the best rapid spinners in the game with Regieleki. And if the team really needs it, Frostmoth can also defog, but usually you want to run other moves on Frostmoth like Quiver Dance and different ice type and bug type like Bug Buzz, Ice Beam, and one other coverage move. The team also has great Screen Setters, once again thanks to Lucky, being one of the best support Pokemon in the game, and Mew. Yeah, this team also has great Disruption thanks to Grafaiai with Prankster, and can burn you easily with Moltres, and Mew has all the status moves that it could ever want except for like sleep. So very good disruption as well. In terms of offenses, team has two good physical offenses. Attackers, Kingambit and Flamigo. Could be a little better though, because Kingambit often wants to wear in the back till the end of the game. Doesn't want to really open, so slight weakness there, but not much to only knock one point off for that. In terms of special attacker, this team is great. GU is probably the best special attacking Pokemon in the game. I don't think anything hits harder than GU on the special side of things. Lucky as well. If you get rid of the ground type, it can be very threatening. Tornadus, great special attack as well. Walking Away in the sun with photosynthesis, choice specs, do a lot of damage, and also a lot of good U-turn options on the team. So very solid offenses. In terms of speed, team is pretty good because they have the fastest Pokemon in the game, with Lucky. So nothing's gonna outspeed that with a Choice Scarf, and even with the Choice Scarf, you're often not gonna be faster than Lucky. Yeah, and priority as well. They have King Gambit, Sucker Punch, Swords Dance. So yeah, easily can do some damage as well. No issues, not regard for this team. Yeah, defenses. Yeah, that's what this team is really lacking. Basically, the only defensive wall this team has is Palossand. Because like you can also use defensive Moltres and Mew, but those are not the best because Mew lost all recovery moves this generation. And Moltres, yeah, because it's okay on the defensive side as well. But there's no real defensive core. This team basically, its whole game plan is to set up screens with a Lucky or Mew and get in its threats and start clicking buttons. And using a Fire Eye to like stall you and Tornadus to maybe pivot around. This team is not designed to wall at all. So overall, 80 out of 100, fall solidly in the B tier. Just held back by the lack of defenses on this team. Okay, next, Montgomery Murkrows. Very good job drafting, no important types missing. The only weakness to this team is water, because the only water resist Samurott, like Hisuian Samurott, it will often be dead after the beginning of the match, because they often will sack it to get the spikes up. And Hisuian Decidueye is not the best Pokemon, so there was a slight water weakness on the team, but overall it's not too bad. That term. Hazards, great hazards, because they have the best spiker in the game from Hisuian Samurott, because it can easily get up 2 layers of spikes with the Choice Scarf or Focus Sash. And they have Rocks from Garganacl, a very solid defensive wall. And if the team really wants, they can go talk to Spike's Rev Room as well. Yeah, the team has one main threat with Annihilate, basically. Can bulk up with Rage Fist, Drain Punch, and some coverage move. Protect with it goes leftovers, or it can go Choice Scarf as well and run. I think it might even have a pivot option, or Final Gambit as well if you want to be really spicy. But usually you probably wouldn't want to do that with your Annihilate. But it's a very threatening Pokemon. But no other real threats on the team besides Annihilate. If there's one more threat, there's easily 15 out of 15, but Annihilate's the only real scary Pokemon. Yeah, in terms of hazard control and support, they have a Magic Bounce user with Espeon, and Screens and Wish, so it's a very good defensive support Pokemon. And also, they have Defog from Decidueye, and Mousehole with Tidy Up, so this team has no trouble keeping hazards off the field, because Mousehole with Tidy Up is a great move. Boosts his attack and speed, and can allow it to do Population Bomb for a lot of damage. Disruption, also no weakness for this team, because Samurott has Knockoff, and Decidueye as well. And Rotom Heap is a really good defensive wall, potentially, special defensive wall, or special attacker, and can easily spread Burn and Paralysis. Offenses, this team is very solid. Now, like, a lot of good attackers, like with Mousehole with Population Bomb, Annihilate, Rage Fist, Decidueye is not a bad attacker, Samurott's not a bad attacker either. Also, pretty good special attackers with Espeon with very high special attack, along with Anamorous, and Typhlosion, Choice Scarf, Eruption, very strong. And the team also has great pivots with Reverum with Parting Shot, also Volt Switch and U-Turn on many Pokemon. Yeah, in terms of speed, the team is not bad. Good balance overall. Just they are missing, like, the only really fast Pokemon is Dugtrio, which isn't often coming. It's very matchup dependent, so it's okay. And the priority on the team is also okay. They have Sucker Punch Samurott or Shadow Sneak Decidueye, I believe. Or is it Sucker Punch? I can't remember off the top of my head. but decent priority options, not the best, not the worst. In terms of defenses, this team is also a pretty aggro team with very few defensive walls besides Garganackle and Rotom Heat. Anamorous also has decent defenses, but is pretty slow, so the team is lacking low on the defensive side, but does have some options. No, definitely not the point. This team is not supposed to be defensive. This team is very offensive as well. So overall, 87 out of 100, falls solidly into the A tier. Next, Salem Keiser Volcanions. Yeah, I have nothing to say about the types. It's the best balanced team that there is in the league. The only weakness to Ghost isn't really a weakness to Ghost because Ghost is weak to Ghost, but the Ghost types can also threaten Ghosts with a lot of the Pokemon. And yeah, it's not the Ghost weakness doesn't really matter at all because Ghost is not the best attacking type anyways. Hazards are great hazards thanks to Clodsire mostly, and also Great Tusk and Greninja and Screamtail, like in Rock Dusk. Like this team has so many options, and literally every single hazard setters are good. Like there's no bad hazards that this team has. So easy 15 out of 15. Yeah, and threats. Second scariest Pokemon in the league, I believe. Like Terra, Volcarona, Quiver Dance with Terra Fire, Terra Water, I believe. Fire and Water. I would have liked to see Grass instead of Fire, but it's still very, very good Terra choices. And I could easily win a game with Quiver Dance. Hazard Control, another 10 out of 10, thanks to Great Tusk being like the best OU Pokemon, like one of the best OU Pokemon, like Rapid Spin and very physically defensive, and can also defog and Decidueye for once, and has one of the best support Pokemon with Screamtail, usually Wish Pass or Screens. It's a very, very, very good Pokemon. Team has great Disruption as well, thanks to Great Tusk again with Knockoff, and the ability to the status view with Screamtail, and Toxic with Clodsire, so no issues there. Offenses, the team is not the best. This is the only thing slightly holding the team back. In terms of physical side, Great Tusk and Lycanroc are decent physical attackers. Not the best, but they're pretty solid. And special side, the team also has Volcarona, but often you don't want to break with Volcarona. You want to win the game with Volcarona, so they only have Greninja, which has been heavily nerfed thanks to the Protean nerf and the Battle Bond nerf as well. Although we can't even use Battle Bond in this league. So the team is kind of missing a special attacker that can be used to break. But still decent attacking team. In terms of priority, perfect balance. Like the team has good balance of speed tiers, fast Pokemon in Greninja and Screamtail. Good priority thanks to Greninja again with Water Shuriken and Excel Rock, Lycanroc Dusk, very strong. In terms of defenses, Great Tusk has a great physical wall thanks to its insane bulk. And Clodsire can wall on the special side for days thanks to Unaware and Recover. Bronzong and Screamtail also do a pretty good job being just walls generally. And yeah, overall, very, very solid defensive team. Good Firewater Grass core with Volcarona, Greninja, and Decidueye as well. So, easy S tier team, 96 out of 100. Yeah, nothing really else to say besides easy S tier. Okay, and for the final team of the league, Detroit Cobalion. They have all the important types covered. The only weakness is that they have an ice problem, basically. Because Krew doesn't often want to switch into ice type attacks, so it basically only has Arcanine to be an ice resist for the team. There's also the weakness with water, same thing with Krew not wanting to resist the water type hits, but they have Amoonguss as the only real threat because defensive walk is Electrode is pretty frail, so I don't want to take too many hits to water. In terms of hazard, this team is very good. Tinglu with spikes, Stealth Rock, Whirlwind, and Throat Chop or Ruination or Earthquake. Very solid Pokemon. They have Landorus Incarnate as well. Alzoff, Deontay, all for rocks, a lot of rock options. Just would like to see maybe one more Spiker or T-Spikes or something else to give them the 15 out of 50. In terms of threats, a little bit threatening with Quaquaval, because thanks to Aqua Step and Moxie, they can Swords Dance up, I believe, can easily sweep a team. And Azelf just naturally a pretty fast Pokemon and can boost its special attack with Mystic Power, and then start doing some damage there. Hazard Control, great Defogger and Corviknight, and good Rapid Spinner from Quaquaval as well, but often you don't want to run Rapid Spin Quaquaval because you want to run other attacking moves, but still a good option. And there's also some good screen options as well on the team. Disruption, the team is hurt a bit by not having knockoff, but it's fine because they have Spore Amoonguss, which is a great Pokemon, and they have Arcanine with Intimidate and Burn, so this team has pretty good disruption. In terms of offenses, Quavel is basically the only physical attacker, besides potentially Landorus as well could run physical, Azelf as well could run physical. Special side of things, Landorus and Azelf, yeah, they can go either way. And the team has very good pivots with, I believe, Electrode can pivot, Corviknight can pivot, and Landorus can pivot, and I'm sure I'm missing some. There's a lot of pivots on this team. The speed balance is good. They have very fast Pokemon in Electrode, and they have good priority because Arcanine is a very, very solid attacker with extreme speed, and Quavel as well can do some good damage with Aqua Jet. Team has a very, very good defensive core. Feels almost VGC-ish with Amoonguss and Arcanine. Yeah, so very good defensive core. You can add a Quavel in there, have a good Fire, Water, Grass core. There's also Corviknight, great defensive Pokemon, along with Diancie as well, good defenses. Tinglu as well, great wall for both sides. So this team would be the other contender, I believe, for like the best defensive team in the league. So overall, 85 out of 100, fall solidly in the A tier. Yeah. So I did make some changes from the previous slides. I did increase the score of the Chicago Cinderaces from 89 to 91. Yeah, because I guess I didn't update the slides, but yeah. Chicago Cinderaces real score is 91, not 89. They fall in the S tiers, but overall, this is the rankings. So let me know what you guys think about this, and like where am I wrong, where am I right, and how you thought about how I ranked it. Like, did I put too much emphasis on certain stats versus the other? Yeah, I hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit, and have a good day.